On December 7, 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, in an attempt to cripple the U.S. Pacific Fleet and secure its position in Asia. The attack drew the U.S. into the war and marked the beginning of Japan's involvement in World War II. Once again, most welcome to the video of Mr. F. World War II was a global conflict that lasted from 1939 to 1945. It involved the majority of the world's nations, including the great powers of the time, ultimately forming two opposing military alliances, the Allies and the Axis. The war began with the invasion of Poland by Nazi Germany in September 1939, and soon spread to other parts of Europe as well as North Africa and Asia. The conflict was marked by numerous key events such as the Battle of Stalingrad, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, and the D-Day invasion of Normandy, which ultimately led to the defeat of Nazi Germany and the Axis powers. The war had a significant impact on the world, resulting in the deaths of millions of people, including civilians and military personnel. It also led to the formation of the United Nations and the emergence of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers. One of the major contributors to the outbreak of World War II was the aggressive foreign policy of Nazi Germany, which sought to expand its territory and impose its ideology on other nations. Japan also played a significant role in the war, driven by its desire to establish a greater East Asian co-prosperity sphere and to secure access to natural resources. The roots of Japan's involvement in World War II can be traced back to the early 20th century, when Japan began to emerge as a major industrial and military power. At the time, Japan was eager to expand its influence in Asia and establish itself as a dominant force in the region. In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria, a region of northeastern China, and established a puppet state called Manchukuo. This was followed by further territorial expansion in China, as Japan sought to establish a buffer zone to protect its interests. Japan believed that it needed to control these territories to secure access to natural resources, such as oil, rubber, and tin, which were necessary to fuel its industrial growth and military power. Japan's aggression in Asia drew the attention of the international community, and the League of Nations condemned Japan's actions. However, Japan refused to withdraw from the territories it had seized, and instead chose to withdraw from the League of Nations in 1933. Over the next few years, Japan continued its expansionist policy in Asia, which led to increasing tensions with the United States. The U.S. had economic interests in the region and saw Japan's actions as a threat to its own national security. In response, the U.S. imposed economic sanctions on Japan, including an embargo on the export of oil, steel, and other critical resources. This was a major blow to Japan, which relied heavily on imported oil to maintain its economy and military power. In 1940, Japan signed the Tripartite Pact with Germany and Italy, forming the Axis powers. This alliance allowed Japan to expand its influence further and pursue its imperial ambitions in Asia without fear of retaliation from the Allied powers. However, tensions between Japan and the U.S. continued to escalate, and the U.S. tightened its embargo on Japan. In response, Japan began to consider military action against the U.S. and its allies. On December 7, 1941, Japan launched a surprise attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, in an attempt to cripple the U.S. Pacific Fleet and secure its position in Asia. The attack drew the U.S. into the war and marked the beginning of Japan's involvement in World War II. Japan fought fiercely throughout the war, displaying a willingness to sacrifice everything for its national goals. However, by 1945, Japan's situation had become increasingly desperate. The U.S. had launched a massive bombing campaign against Japan, which had devastated its cities and caused widespread suffering. In August 1945, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, killing hundreds of thousands of people and causing Japan to surrender to the Allied powers on August 15, 1945. In conclusion, Japan's involvement in World War II was driven by its aggressive expansionist policy, its desire for access to natural resources, and its need to secure its position in Asia. The U.S. embargo on Japan, particularly the supply of oil, was a key factor that led to Japan's decision to launch a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor and enter the war on the side of the Axis powers. Despite fighting fiercely throughout the war, Japan ultimately suffered a devastating defeat that left its cities in ruins and forced it to surrender to the Allied powers. Thanks for watching. Your one subscribe could reach me 1,000.